Imagine the roar of a stadium, the perfectly manicured pitch, the precise choreography of modern football, a global spectacle played out under the watchful eyes of millions. Now cast that image aside for a moment. Instead, picture a small English village, Hallaton, nestled in the rolling Leicestershire countryside, where once a year on Easter Monday, an entirely different kind of football unfolds. This isn't about perfectly weighted passes or intricate set pieces. It's a primal, visceral contest, a chaotic surge of bodies across fields and streams, driven by an ancient, almost incomprehensible tradition. It's a scene that feels less like a sport and more like a living echo from a forgotten age, a raw, untamed expression of community rivalry that defies modern understanding. For generations, the villagers of Hallaton have faced their neighbors from Medbourne in an annual ritual known simply as bottle kicking. This isn't a friendly kickabout. It's a no-holds-barred struggle for supremacy, a test of strength, endurance, and sheer communal will. The bottles themselves are not glass, but small, wooden barrels, stout and heavy, filled with ale, and they become the focal point of a maelstrom of humanity. The objective is deceptively simple. Carry these barrels, by any means necessary, across designated boundaries, miles apart, with little regard for formal rules or personal safety. It's a spectacle that bewilders outsiders, a bewildering tapestry of mud, muscle, and fervent local pride, utterly distinct from the polished professionalism of today's game. The very air in Hallaton on this particular day crackles with an intensity that transcends mere sporting competition. It's a palpable connection to a lineage stretching back through centuries, a direct, unbroken link to the very origins of what we now recognize as football. Before the meticulously codified rules, before the elegant stadiums, before the global leagues, there were gatherings like this, localized, often brutal, community-driven contests played out across the natural landscape, using whatever makeshift implements were at hand. These were games born of necessity, of local identity, and of a deep-seated human need for physical exertion and competitive release. They were chaotic, yet profoundly meaningful to those involved, shaping the very fabric of village life. What makes Hallaton's bottle kicking so compelling is not just its sheer antiquity or its raw, unadulterated energy, but its profound, albeit often overlooked, historical significance. It stands as a living testament to a form of folk football that dominated the English landscape for hundreds of years. These were the unruly ancestors of the beautiful game, played not on pitches but across parishes, with entire communities participating in a free-for-all that often blurred the lines between sport and outright brawling. The wooden bottles of Hallaton, fiercely contested and passed hand-to-hand in a heaving scrum, are a direct descendant of the primitive balls, often inflated animal bladders or even carved wooden spheres, that were the focus of these medieval contests. The enduring survival of bottle kicking offers a unique window into a pivotal, yet dimly remembered, chapter in sporting history. It forces us to confront the stark contrast between the wild, anarchic roots of football and its highly structured, globally recognized modern incarnation. How did such a seemingly untamed, localized tradition, steeped in ancient customs and raw physicality, contribute to the disciplined, rule-bound sport that captivates billions today? What lessons, what fundamental elements, were carried forward from these muddy fields and chaotic skirmishes into the refined game we now cherish? This ancient ritual, played out with an almost religious fervor in a quiet corner of rural England, holds within its rough-and-tumble embrace the surprising, foundational inspirations that ultimately laid the groundwork for the organized sport we know and love. It's a journey from the visceral to the refined, from the local to the global, a testament to the enduring power of human play and competition. The spectacle witnessed annually in Hallaton, far from being a mere historical curiosity, illuminates a fundamental aspect of early sporting endeavors, the fluid, often unwritten nature of their rules. Unlike the meticulously detailed rulebooks governing contemporary sports, these ancestral contests operated on a foundational understanding, a shared communal agreement rather than a codified charter. Imagine a game where the boundaries were defined by natural landmarks, a distant church steeple, a meandering brook, a specific ancient oak, rather than precisely chalked lines. Here, victory was not determined by points or time, but by the sheer force of collective will, by the ability to physically propel an object from one agreed-upon point to another, often miles apart. This inherent lack of formalized structure, while appearing chaotic to the modern observer, was precisely what allowed these games to adapt organically to local terrain and community dynamics, fostering a robust, if often brutal, form of engagement. Furthermore, these village contests served a far grander purpose than simple recreation. They functioned as vital social conduits, annual rituals that reinforced communal identity and, paradoxically, offered a sanctioned outlet for inter-village rivalries that might otherwise fester. Consider the sheer physical demands. The need for collective effort, for raw strength, for an unyielding determination to overcome an opposing mass of humanity. This wasn't merely about individual prowess. It was about the cohesion of a community, the forging of a shared experience through sweat and struggle. Such events were often deeply intertwined with local festivals and seasonal celebrations, solidifying their place as integral components of the social calendar. Rites of passage for the young, and enduring traditions that bound generations together in a shared narrative of local pride. The very landscape became an active participant in these early forms of football. Unlike the controlled environments of modern pitches, the fields, ditches, hedges, and occasional streams of the English countryside were not obstacles to be circumvented, but integral components of the playing area. A natural incline could become a strategic advantage, a particularly muddy patch a defensive quagmire. Players had to navigate uneven ground, unpredictable footing, and the elements themselves, demanding an adaptability and ruggedness rarely seen in today's highly specialized athletes. This organic integration with the environment meant that each game was unique, shaped by the contours of the land, fostering a deep, almost instinctual connection between the participants and their immediate surroundings, a stark contrast to the standardized playing fields of the modern era. However, the very unruliness that defined these folk games eventually became their undoing, at least in their original, unfettered form. As society began to urbanize and industrialize in the 18th and 19th centuries, the spontaneous, often violent nature of mob football, as it became pejoratively known, increasingly clashed with emerging notions of order, civility, and public safety. Authorities, concerned about disruption, property damage, and the potential for serious injury, began to view these traditional contests with growing apprehension, often attempting to suppress them. This societal shift created a powerful impetus for change, a growing demand for a more structured, less disruptive form of competitive sport that could be played within defined boundaries and under agreed-upon rules, paving the way for a profound transformation. Consequently, it was within the more controlled environment of England's public schools that the seeds of modern, organized football truly began to germinate. Faced with the challenge of channeling youthful exuberance into constructive outlets, educators and students alike began to experiment with adapting these traditional folk games. They sought to impose order on chaos, to define specific rules, and to limit the sprawling, often dangerous nature of the play. This intellectualization of the game, moving it from the village green to the school quadrangle, marked a pivotal moment. Here, the emphasis shifted from raw, unbridled physicality to a more strategic, skill-based approach, laying the conceptual groundwork for distinct codes of play that would eventually diverge into rugby and association football. The inherent spirit of collective endeavor and robust physical contest, so evident in events like bottle kicking, was not lost in this transition. Rather, it was refined and channeled. What emerged was not a sterile, emotionless activity, but a game imbued with a new sense of discipline and sportsmanship, yet still retaining the primal thrill of competition. Consider the concept of the scrum in rugby or the dense midfield battles in football. These can be seen as echoes of the earlier, less formalized collective pushes for possession. The drive to establish clear objectives, to define what constituted fair play, and to create a framework for competitive integrity, all evolved from the very practical necessity of managing large groups of participants in these ancestral games. It was a journey from instinctive communal play to a codified global phenomenon, driven by a complex interplay of tradition, societal pressures, and the innovative spirit of those who sought to bring order to the beautiful chaos of the game. The initial raw energy, once a torrent across the untamed landscape, has undeniably been channeled. What began as an elemental outpouring of communal spirit and competitive drive deeply rooted in the very fabric of local life, has undergone a profound metamorphosis. We've traced a trajectory where the raw, unscripted fervor of ancient contests, played out with an almost primal abandon, gradually yielded to a more refined and formalized expression. This wasn't a sudden rupture, but rather a slow, deliberate carving of a new path, much like a powerful river slowly shaping the land, its original force never truly lost, but directed into a more navigable course. The very impulses that propelled communities into these vigorous confrontations, the yearning for collective triumph, the assertion of local identity, the sheer joy of robust physical engagement, did not dissipate with the advent of order. They found new, albeit more constrained, avenues for manifestation. Reflecting on this journey so far, it becomes clear that the essence of these foundational struggles, once sprawling across entire parishes, was not discarded in the pursuit of structure. Instead, it was distilled, its most potent elements preserved and reinterpreted within evolving frameworks. The fierce, almost instinctual drive to propel an object through a contested space, a hallmark of those early, unbridled encounters, became the very heartbeat of a game that would eventually captivate a global audience. The lessons learned from navigating unpredictable terrains and overcoming sheer human mass, the implicit understanding of collective strategy forged in the heat of chaotic battle, subtly informed the development of more sophisticated tactics and the imperative for coordinated team play. The very act of imposing boundaries and defining objectives, once the practical solution to managing burgeoning populations and competing interests, inadvertently laid the groundwork for a universal language of sport, comprehensible across diverse cultures. Consider how the persistent human need for ritual and shared experience, once satisfied by annual, almost sacred village contests, found new resonance within the structured confines of organized play. The boisterous camaraderie and fierce loyalties that characterized those ancient gatherings were not extinguished. They were simply transposed onto a different stage, manifesting as fervent fan bases and deeply ingrained club affiliations. The foundational thrill of competition, the visceral satisfaction of physical exertion, and the profound sense of belonging that emerged from these collective endeavors proved remarkably resilient. They adapted, shifting from the muddied fields of local rivalry to the manicured pitches of burgeoning institutions, retaining their magnetic pull on the human spirit, albeit in a more regulated form. What we witness, then, is not merely a historical transition, but a testament to the enduring human capacity for innovation and adaptation in the realm of play. The seemingly disparate threads of the raw, unvarnished contest of strength and will, the gradual imposition of rules for safety and fairness, the channeling of communal energies into formalized structures, converge to form a rich tapestry. Each thread, though distinct, contributes to the overall pattern, revealing how the very DNA of a sport can evolve over centuries, shedding its wilder aspects while retaining its core vitality. This evolution underscores a deeper truth about the nature of human leisure and competition. It is a dynamic, ever-changing landscape, constantly reshaped by societal pressures, technological advancements, and an inherent drive to refine and elevate human endeavor. As we pivot towards the final reflection, it is crucial to appreciate that the echoes of those primal shouts, the ghost of those ancient struggles for a wooden barrel, continue to resonate within the polished spectacle of today. The modern game, with all its global reach and intricate precision, is not an entirely new creation but rather a sophisticated descendant, carrying within its very structure the indelible imprints of its untamed ancestry. This understanding invites us to look beyond the surface, to perceive the deep historical currents flowing beneath the contemporary veneer, offering a richer, more nuanced appreciation for the journey of a game that began not on a meticulously marked field, but in the heart of a village, a testament to enduring human spirit. This continuity, this remarkable persistence of core principles through radical transformation, offers a profound insight into the very essence of sport and its enduring place in human culture. And so, as we journey back from the muddy fields of Hallaton, leaving behind the primal roar of bottle kicking, we carry with us more than just a historical anecdote. We gain a profound understanding that the meticulously orchestrated ballet of modern football, with its global leagues and precision play, is not an entirely new invention sprung from a void. Rather, it is the sophisticated, refined progeny of a wilder, more untamed ancestry. The chaotic exuberance and raw, communal energy witnessed in those ancient village contests are not merely relics of a bygone era. They are the very genetic code, the foundational impulses, from which the beautiful game has evolved. The spirit of collective endeavor, the visceral thrill of competition, and the deep-seated human need for communal ritual, once expressed through a surging mass of bodies struggling for a wooden barrel, have simply found new, more structured forms of expression. This remarkable continuity, spanning centuries of societal change and technological advancement, speaks volumes about the enduring nature of human play. It reveals how the spontaneous, often unruly, expressions of competitive spirit can be gradually sculpted and codified, yet without losing their essential vitality. The transition from the sprawling, boundaryless fields of folk football to the precisely delineated pitches of today was not an act of erasure, but one of refinement, a deliberate channeling of inherent human drives into a framework that allowed for greater fairness, broader participation, and ultimately global appeal. The ingenious act of defining rules, establishing governing bodies, and standardizing equipment was less about stifling the game's wild heart and more about giving it a universal language, allowing its passion to transcend local dialects and geographical confines. Moreover, the story of Hallaton reminds us that sport, at its deepest level, is far more than just a game. It is a living, breathing tradition, a cultural anchor that connects generations and reinforces communal bonds. These ancient contests, often intertwined with seasonal festivals and local identities, provided a vital outlet for rivalries, a means of forging solidarity, and a stage for individual and collective heroism. While modern football has professionalized and globalized these aspects, the underlying human need for belonging, for shared triumphs and defeats, remains as potent as ever. The roar of the crowd in a modern stadium is an echo, albeit amplified and diversified, of the collective shouts that once rippled across a Leicestershire field, uniting villagers in a common, passionate pursuit. Therefore, when we next witness the grace and precision of a world-class match, let us not forget the muddy, chaotic origins from which it sprang. Let us appreciate the invisible threads that tie the intricate footwork of a striker to the determined push of a medieval villager, the strategic prowess of a coach to the instinctive leadership of a local champion. Understanding these deep roots enriches our appreciation of the sport, imbuing it with a historical resonance that transcends mere entertainment. It transforms the game from a fleeting spectacle into a profound testament to human ingenuity, adaptability, and the enduring power of play. The true magic of football, then, lies not just in its present glory, but in its remarkable journey from the untamed wild to the global stage, a journey that continues to unfold, inviting us to see the primal within the polished and the ancient spirit animating every modern kick. The appreciation for this legacy, indeed, begins now.